Ian Mayer from I Am Home Inspections. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's so great to finally talk to you after all these years.
I know. I was just excited to have another Ian on the show because now it's just a show about Ian, no matter how you look at it.
It's funny when I email you, I always feel like I'm emailing myself. Why am I talking about myself in the third person?
Well, if your name is John or
Mhm.
Gary, that happens more often. Ian, that's not, I mean, it's relatively common, but not enough. So sometimes I don't know if you do what I do. Sometimes I'll email myself a reminder when I'm doing something real quick. I'm
Yes.
pretty sure at least once or twice I've sent you a weird email like pick up bread.
You probably have at some point over the years.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, when I first got online, uh, there was only one other Ian in the world, and he was an IT guy in England. So I couldn't buy ianmayer.com because this guy existed. And then when I first had the first MySpace and whatever, the early internet
Mhm.
stuff, I would get so many DMs for him. But now I go online and there's like a bazillion Ians and a bazillion Ian Mayers, and it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, the reason we have you on today is not because of your ultimately cool name. Um, you just had an article written about you or an episode. I forget what it was, but either way, you've been doing a fantastic business and you've hit the $1 million mark, which is the
Yep.
magic number that home inspection businesses use for. I mean, it's the top of the top for a home inspection company. That's like hitting your first billion. That's like, Elon Musk finally becoming a trillionaire. So before we get into the $1 million question, tell us a little bit about yourself, Ian.
Well, how far back do you want to go?
The day you were born. No, I'm just kidding. How did you
oh,
get into the home inspection industry? Um, you know, what made you get to the level of success that you're at now? Where's your business located? Things like that.
Okay, so I'm in Los Angeles, California. I moved to Los Angeles from San Francisco because I wanted to be a rock star. I was going to be a drummer in a rock band, and I was going to make it in the music business or die trying. And then one day I woke up and I went, I don't want to die that badly. The music business is absolutely brutal. It's almost impossible to make any money, and I definitely didn't have as much talent as some of the other guys in the scene who have gone on to do a lot better things. And then I met my wife, and I was also I wanted to get married and have kids. That was, I wanted music to pay for that, but you start to realize like going on tour for no money doesn't really jive with having a wife. So I needed something else to do, and I didn't know what else to do for a long time. And I had a job that I really hated, and one day I was like, you know what, I'm not going to go to work today. I'm taking a mental health day because I'm just so lost. And I walked through a bookstore and I saw at the corner of my eye a copy of Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I'm like, well, I've never met my dad. I never had a poor dad or a rich dad. Let's kill two birds with one stone. Let's buy this book. And that kind of made me realize, okay, there's a world out there bigger than me. And so it just started getting me thinking about something bigger. And then I ran into someone at a party. My wife's best friend was having a party, and there happened to be a lady there. And she's like, well, what do you do? And I was like, well, I've got a degree in finance. I'm not really using it. Because when I moved to LA, the deal with my mother at the time was I would go to college. And I was like, we'll only go to college if we're in LA, because I thought, and I'll be a rock star before I graduate. And I ended up having to graduate because eventually I ran out of classes to take. So I got this degree in finance I'm not using, but she's like, oh, well, we need, my company is looking for people like that. I'm like, well, okay. So 6 months went by. I eventually got an interview, and the guy interviewing me was also a frustrated musician. He was a frustrated guitar player. So I see the guitar in your background there. So we talked about music and football for like an hour. And then he's like, all right, well, it's been over an hour. And I'm like, we didn't even talk about the job. But they hired me, and So it was a wholesale mortgage company. So that was my first introduction to real estate. And I just instantly was like, whoa, I really love real estate. This is really cool. My passion was always music, but all of a sudden, I'm almost as passionate about real estate. And I didn't even know that about myself. And I always had an eye for problems. Like I can always walk into a situation and go, well, the problem with this is, and most companies that get you in trouble because they're a problem person. This company was kind of, after a while working there, they're like, you know what? You got this cool skill. Come back here and take me to the back of the office. And they had all these loans that they had made. They were getting kicked back by Wall Street. Because, I don't know, to get in the whole thing is when you get a mortgage, your broker gets a loan, and you get going through the bank, and then the bank sells it to Wall Street. And it gets traded around like, stocks and bonds, whatever. And so the loans that were getting hit by Wall Street, they're like, okay, these are our problems. Find the problem and fix it. So to me, it was like, oh, okay, go through. This one's got a paperwork error. All right, that's easy. This one, like the underwriter screwed up. All right, who made a mistake? Was it a mistake a person made? Was it a mistake a system made? And all of a sudden, I was like, oh, I kind of like this. I'm getting paid to just be negative all day, point out people's problems. And so that finally made enough money that my wife and I are like, we want to buy a house. But we couldn't really afford anything else, but we bought a fixer-upper. Complete, it had 4 walls, it had a foundation, the roof was shot, the plumbing was shot, the floors were shot. But we bought it, and I would work on it at night and on the weekends while sitting in an office, spending all my day looking at pictures of houses. And eventually I was kind of like, this is a lot cooler. Like, we had a home inspection, and I thought, that guy's job was pretty cool. And then I thought about, like, I think maybe being a home inspector would be a really cool idea. But then within a short period of time, my mom passed away, the economy collapsed, and my wife got pregnant with her first child. So I was like, I cannot become a home inspector. What am I talking about? I can't go start up a new business right now. The real estate market is in a mess, and all this stuff going on in my life. And I talked myself out of it, which was the dumbest thing I've ever done. So I went and did some bunch of other things. And then one day I was working in an office for a company that had nothing to do with anything that I had any interest in, but it was a job because, at that point it was, 2000, after the 2008 crisis, right? So you couldn't get a job anywhere. And somehow I got a job. And then one day I walked in that office and they're like, yeah, the owner's relocating the entire company to another state. We're all getting laid off. And I'm like, ooh, what do I do now? And I just remember going for a walk and I'm like, what do I do now? I go work for someone else. I'm just going to get laid off again. And I'm too old to be laid off again. And then I was like, I still have this home inspector idea in the back of my head. And I wanted to get back into real estate. And it just occurred to me, like, if I become a home inspector, no one can lay me off. No one's going to say, you have a job today. Oh, you don't have a job tomorrow. Like, I'll have some control of my own destiny.
Mm-hmm.
And so I looked online, and there just happened to be back then, Ashley School used to, have a traveling school. They would go around the country and set up little trainings in a hotel. And there just happened to be one in a couple weeks. And I was like, bingo, we're on that. And there was also one for the FLIR, not FLIR, but whatever, the infrared association was having a training in a couple weeks, and they were only a couple weeks apart. So I'm like, boom. So I just signed up for all those classes, and I took all the classes and started my own company with the original objection was just to pay the mortgage, put food on the table for my wife and kids. That's all I really wanted to do at the beginning. Which was, a struggle, as we all been through that first year. You don't make any money. Thankfully, my wife somehow strung together a series of jobs so that we could keep the mortgage paid, or at least paid enough.
Just to pause there for a second, I think that's an important thing that you said, especially for new inspectors. A lot of us like to think about it being a meteoric rise. Like, we'll hear stories about this home inspectors like, oh, I did 600 inspections my first year. Those are outliers. The average inspection company owner that I know has a similar story about their first year. You know how many I did in my first year, Ian? Like 1. And then like my second year was like 20. And then third year, I'm just like gangbusters. It takes time and it takes effort, and there's a little bit of drudgery.
Yeah, my first full year was 77 inspections. And
so you did way better than me. First full year.
And to be fair, I was doing a lot of the parenting while my wife worked. Because she got on a roll for a while. And there was a little bit of like, well, maybe she should be the primary. But I really wanted to do this. And the third year, it became, I still remember the first time I paid the mortgage in full, purely with home inspection money. That was like the greatest day of my life. At the time, I thought. So this went on for 5 years of just me, being an inspector, getting up, working. And then one day I was in a crawl space. It was December, and my oldest kid's birthday is at the end of December. And, we had bought whatever we could for Christmas. But his birthday was coming up, and we were like, well, what do you want to do? Because we were always very conscious, like, keep his birthday present and Christmas present separate. Don't do that combination thing, because it's not his fault. He was born right after Christmas. And his birthday's coming up, and I just remember coming out of crawl space, and just right before coming out, I just stopped. And I pulled out my phone and just said, I had the best year ever as a solo inspector, and my bank account had zeros in it. And it's my kid's birthday coming up, and I just felt horrible. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm working so hard, 5-6 days a week, 2 inspections a day. But I'm not really getting ahead. And probably a little controversial point, but it's when I started really noticing all the solo inspectors that I know that do well either don't have kids, or their kids are long grown and this is their second career. Like, you don't meet too many people who are supporting a wife and kids as a solo home inspector. I know like one guy that does it, but very, very few. Most of the guys that are on the Nachi board or wherever you meet that are really successful solo home inspectors, like, they don't have a lot of bills. And, I had a few kids, and it really occurred to me, like, my youngest kid has never been more than 2 hours from where he was born because, dad had to work. If I wasn't working, money wasn't coming in. And even when we go on vacation, I'm on my phone the entire time trying to book clients or letting stuff go to voicemail and then calling them back on, Dad's going to go to the bathroom and go to the corner and like call someone back trying to book the job. And like, we're not even having real vacations. And I'm like, this is not the life I wanted for my kids. I wanted them to have, something better than I had. And that's not happening just being a one-man shop. So that's when I started going, I need to do something different here. And that's kind of where the multi-inspector thing came from.
So I think there's something very real in what you said there about the vacation. That's something that we don't talk about enough as an industry. How many of us listening to this episode have had a real vacation recently where we didn't have to answer a phone call? We didn't have to deal with a problem or an issue or an agent or, it's, I laugh and I chuckle, but that's what you have to do, because that's part of not only being a business owner, but just being in our industry. But I guess here's the $1 million question. we've all had those moments coming out of a crawl space. And for some of us, solo inspector, that's the way to be. My favorite time in life, one of my favorite times in life, I should say, is being a solo inspector, flying around in my spaceship like Han Solo, looking at cool stuff, eating at cool places. It was a blast, but it does wear on you. The most time I ever had with my family is when I started allocating things, and that was my favorite time in life with my family, when especially my daughter was young, and we have great memories. So there's advantages to both. But how did you go from that, man, I'm not getting ahead moment coming out of the crawl space to where you are now? Because even most multi-inspector firms don't hit the $1 million mark.
Well, it was a long transition. I mean, it was not overnight by any means. It was another probably 5 years.
That's a short period of time, though.
Maybe even 6. I mean, the first thing I remember it was January, because my son's birthday was in December, so now it's January. We got through the birthday thing, and January is kind of the slow time of the year anyway. So I just remember coming home, and I would do my inspection, write my reports, still writing reports at home. And then I would just sort of trudge the internet going, well, what do I do next? And I came across a video for IEB, and I was like, all right. And, membership was, I think, $349 or $347 a month, and I had exactly $500 in my bank account. And I was just like, to put in football terms, because this is the Hail Mary. This is Joe Montana throwing the ball into the end zone and hoping Dwight Clark catches it. It's a big moment for my childhood. And it worked.
Big shout out to IEB, though. We want to make sure that people hear that shout out. So that's cool.
And a couple months into it, and at first I was like, I don't know, these people are weird. They like get together and do things, and that's in Houston, and I don't really like to fly. I don't really like to be away from my family. And then one day this email came across, like, how to hire people. And I was just like, okay, I don't know anything about hiring people. I don't have I've never been a manager. I've been a manager somewhere, but I was never in charge of hiring anybody. I never really had staff under me. And I just remember going to my wife. I'm like, she's going to think I'm crazy. But I'm like, I need to shut down the company for like 3 days and fly to Houston and take this class. And I expected her to say, no way, you can't shut the company down. What are we going to do for money? And she looked at me and she says, if that's what you think you need to do, you should do it.
It's a good wife you got there.
I bought a plane ticket to Houston. Hadn't been on an airplane in like 11 years at that point. Went to Houston, took the class on how to hire people, and that was just, I mean, it was game changing. Big shout out to Dirk, who is no longer with IEB, but he really sort of changed my head around. Particularly when he just said, everybody's been through something in their childhood. I'm like, wait, I thought it was just me. I thought I was the only one with like a traumatic childhood. And then you find out, like, we're all screwed up. We all had traumatic childhoods. And that was just the big change as far as like mindset change. And then, so I started keeping an eye out for things. And then my wife and I love to go camping, but when we go camping, we don't have cell phone reception. So it used to be we would go camping for a night or two. And then when we came back off the mountain, as I started to get cell phone reception, I would check all my voicemails and furiously call everybody back. See if I could salvage whatever jobs were ready. And this time we went, and my phone had been ringing busy, and my neighbor had just been laid off. And I was like, I'll tell you what, I will pay you $100 to babysit my phone. I literally handed her my phone. I just drew on paper, Monday, 9 to mine, Tuesday, mine to the slots. I just write the names, the address. I didn't even teach her how to put in. Just fill out the sheet with whoever calls. So we go camping. We're gone for 2-3 days. We come back. She hands me the sheet. Every slot is filled. And I was just like, I've never had every slot filled. So I was like, didn't you just say you got laid off? And she's like, yeah, I did. And she has a child with special needs. So she had very limited time. She needed a job, but she could only work so many hours because she had to take care of her kid. And I was just like, you're hired. And because it occurred to me, and this is one of the things I teach in IB that I didn't really understand until I experienced myself. When you stop answering your own phone and let somebody else answer it for you, you get so many more jobs. Because when you're trying to answer the phone, and if you're on site, it's awkward. You're in an attic or you're in someone's bathroom trying to do your inspection, trying to talk on the phone. You're trying to rush the conversation, or you're letting it go to voicemail, and you're calling them while you're driving to your second inspection with a sandwich hanging out of your mouth. You don't get to give a lot of customer service. You have someone who has nowhere to be and has nothing to do other than be on that phone. She can sit there and answer all the questions. And next thing you know, she's, people were telling her about their dogs and their kids, and they're having this great connection. And well, of course, we're going to book with you. And all of a sudden, the bookings just went way up because I wasn't answering my phone. And she only worked for me part-time. That's the other key. Like, you don't have to hire someone full-time. She only worked 9 to 2. And then I went back to answering my own phone at 2.
It's funny that you mentioned that. We've talked about that on the show because people, like we as home inspectors, will be like, I need to answer my phone call. I need to qualify everybody that calls. I need to answer all the questions. They won't answer the phone like me. It's all a numbers game. If you can find somebody that can do 80% or even less than what we can do on the phone of answering questions and responsiveness and all that stuff, they will still beat us out in closed phone calls into jobs just because of the sheer availability to answer that phone. Like you said, driving down the road, trying to answer calls. Sometimes it's just a matter of the first one to answer and have even just a little connection with that person is the one who gets the inspection. So hiring somebody, whether it be a call center, hiring somebody or whatever, getting off your phone was the first step for me too. So as soon as you said that, I'm like, oh man, and there's no greater feeling than not having to answer your phone. I don't know about you, but did you, how did you feel not answering your phone? To me, it was like having chocolate on a mountain, drinking whiskey. It was amazing.
No, it was fantastic because every day at 2:00 when she got off, I'd start crying. Well, not literally cry, but I gotta go answer my own phone now. And then eventually, we got busy enough. We hired someone to do the afternoon shift. There were still slots. My wife then would take the other slots. But there were still times where it'd be like, okay, no one's available. You have to answer your own phone. I'm like, oh, man. And then the problem became is, when I answered my own phone, I would double book myself at like half price because I wanted every job.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you need Saturday too. All right, I have a Saturday too, and you get so involved in trying to get every job, and of course, when they start asking you for a discount, your initial reaction is no. But they're like, "Come on, man, Like, all right, fine." When the person who's been hired to answer the phone, they ask for a discount. I'm like, no, I'm not allowed to give you a discount. Take it or leave it. And they keep me organized. And so, I was suddenly making more money, with someone else answering the phone because, if they beat up on them on the price, they just like, sorry, I just work here, whereas me as the owner is like, I got to do whatever I can to make sure they book.
Yeah. More money, less stress. Whoever is answering their own phone calls, that's what Ian's basically saying. But Ian, it sounds like we're leading to the point that the only way to really make that $1 million mark is to have employees to one extent or another. To make any more, like the most that I've seen a single inspector make and burn themselves out completely is about 300K a year. And those guys are going hard,
Yeah.
5-6 days a week, burning themselves out, no vacation, answering their own phone calls like you just described. And that sounds like a great living, but you don't have a life. There's
Yeah, that's
there's an
probably where I
inspector.
was. This is a one man shop, but and you don't keep anywhere near that 3K.
No, you don't. No.
Between all your marketing expenses and your gas and fuel and tools and memberships and this and that, like you're only keeping a very small percentage of it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the other thing I learned as a multi-inspector firm is, well, your costs kind of go down. I mean, yeah, you've got payroll, employee taxes, and now I've got health insurance. And that costs a lot, but like the money I pay you for my website, I have to pay you that whether I'm a one-man shop or I've got 10 people. It doesn't really
Exactly.
make a difference. My website doesn't really make a difference. And your insurance doesn't double when you buy 2 people. It goes up a small
Exactly.
amount. And certain other things like, I got to buy myself business cards. The business card doesn't care if I have 1 person or 10. Business card's a business card. Like a lot of your expenses stay the same as you grow. And certain things go up, obviously, but that was another big realization. Like, like scaling, getting bigger is not quite as scary as it sounds. It's definitely scary at first, but once you get into it, you're like, okay.
Well, let me ask you then, because for me, hiring my first employee was probably the scary. Like I have no problem starting a business, running it, making things happen. But I still remember hiring my first employee. I think I nervously vomited for his first week. I think that's normal. I didn't literally vomit, but how do you hire inspectors? For me, that's always been difficult because either you get 50 guys that are just like, man, I wouldn't let you inspect my house after it was already inspected and it didn't matter. I don't want you near my property or my kids or anything. Like, why would I hire you? You have to kiss a lot of frogs. So how did you find your princes, so to speak?
I'll admit I made some mistakes. My first inspector was great, and we're still friends. He's no longer with me, but he became a real estate agent, and we're still friends. But I definitely, looking back, like I underpaid him, I underworked him. I definitely didn't do as much as I should have. Because, like I said, you have these fears like, can I afford payroll? What happens if he makes a mistake? What happens if, I don't have the money? So I made a few mistakes there. But, one of the things that I learned was don't really focus too much on what can they do the job. Really focus on, like, what do they want to do in life? My first question to everybody I interview is, like, what in the world makes you want to be a home inspector? Like, do you really want to crawl through a crawl space full of spider webs and mouse droppings and going into attics that are hot? And, like, once they get then I'm like, I really focus on, like, where are they trying to go with their life? What are their long-term goals? I think a lot of business owners get focused too much on, can you do the job? Do you know what an electrical panel is? Do you know what a GFCI is? I'm like, I don't really care about that stuff. I can teach you that. What I care about is, like, what do you want to be? Where do you want to be in 5 years? Are you looking? Because if they say, well, this is just my temporary job until my real estate career takes off. No, I mean, I get a lot of those people apply. Or I just want to, work here for a couple of years until I can, have enough knowledge to get my own company going. Well, then we're not a match. And they say, hey, I love hiking and camping and, hope to get married one day and I just need a really stable career. Okay, now we're talking something. Now we're on board. So I mean, I really got to credit that to Dirk from IAB. He really got that into me. Like, I don't really care too much about your resume. I want to know where you're going. Where are you trying to be? What do you want to accomplish? Um, occasionally it still bites me in the butt. I've still made a few bad hires here and there, but I really want to get down to personality. What makes you tick? What things do you like, dislike about, your life, what you want to do? Is there something I can help you with long term? That's much more interesting to me. And I think I've heard Gary Vee say that too. Like, your resume is where you've been. Question is, where are you going?
That's interesting, because that's probably a mistake that I've made. I'm gonna actually really think about what you just said there. Not worrying about the person's skill set necessarily, but you learn a lot about a person by them, what they express when you ask that question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Why do you want this job? If their answer is, I really like eating and I need this to eat, it's like, okay, well, you're probably going to be here for 6 months and just go to the next best thing. How they articulate it too also probably tells you about their communication skills, where they are at in life, and honesty. And that's an interesting question to ask. I'm going to remember that one, Ian. So your best employees, how did you find them, if you don't mind me asking? Did you put out ads or did you happen upon them? I'll tell you, for me, I live by the mantra, when you find the right person, you create the position for them instead of looking for the right person when you have the position that you need filled. If I find somebody that I'm like, you're just great, I'm going to be like, how can I make you happen in my company? Whereas if I'm looking for somebody for a position that I already need, that's when, like Michael Scott will say, the most urgent need creates the quickest solution. It's not gonna help.
Most people have come to me. One of the greatest pieces of advice I got from a lady, Michelle Hopkins, who runs a inspection company out in Washington, D.C. So on my website, I have a picture of the employees, and the very last one is a silhouette, blank silhouette, and it says your face here. So a lot of people call me because they're like, I took the international courses, I got my CPI, now what? Or I took my CPI, I bought some business cards, I went out, knocked on a couple realtor doors, and went, oh my God, I can't market. But my best employee did come to me through an ad. I did run an ad, and he responded. And then my second best employee was his friend from elementary school. He went, as soon as I hired him, he's like, hey, you gotta talk to my friend someday. And then another friend of his from high school I hired, so they all knew each other from high school. So there's been a lot of friends of people who already worked for me. And there's been a few ads, and then a few people who just, they found me. They just called or emailed one day randomly, like, hey, I got my certification. Do you have to be hiring? The guy I just hired, funny, we were at a concert, and I'd met a guy at a previous concert, and then we kept in touch, and then I said, hey, you're going to this other concert? He's like, yeah, I'll be there. And then we're talking. He's like, oh, this is my roommate, blah, blah, blah. And I started talking to him, and he said he was talking about his career challenges, and that he was kind of in between careers. And I just said, have you ever thought about becoming a home inspector? He just looked at me and was like, that sounds like a really cool job. I'm like, well, here's my card. And, we kept in touch, and we talked about it for a while and interviewed him a couple times. And so now he's my newest trainee. So
nice.
you kind of always got to be recruiting, always be hiring, always kind of keeping an ear out for, people who may come along.
So with the employee side of things, that's obviously always a growing pain. But you keep mentioning marketing. How did you grow your business to the point where you could sustain a number of employees? I think that's everybody's worry. Like, oh, I'm doing 400 inspections a year, burning myself out. But if I hire an employee, he'll do 200 and I'll do 200. How does that work? You need to grow your business as you grow your business. So how did you get the work? Like,
having been in bands, I'm used to marketing.
mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not quite the same because it used to be, back in the old days, you'd print up a bunch of flyers, then you'd go out to the clubs and hand out flyers. And, hey, come see my band on Friday or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then this thing called social media came along that just made it so much easier because now you can just hand out flyers from home, post. To me, it was a lot of Instagram and Facebook were the biggest things. Just every day posting a picture about something with my logo on it. And then starting to post pictures of the houses we inspected. And I would put the logo, used to put them on the garage, do it a little differently now. My wife is really great at social media, so she taught me a lot of stuff. And then I've been doing SEO since, from the band days. I used to do websites for bands. So you had to help me make it mobile because I couldn't figure that part out. But once I got that part out, I just started doing my own SEO. I've always done my own SEO.
Mm-hmm. And you're good at it.
And social media. And it just sort of grew organically, and then as we hire more people, we have more capacity. So we're turning less people down. I mean, there's always a struggle with, do I have enough people? And I mean, some days we wake up on Monday and we literally do not have enough people for all the inspections we have booked on Monday and Tuesday. And then Thursday you're going, I have too many people on staff. Dang it. So there's always a balancing act, but a lot of it has just been social media and keeping the website, top ranked.
But no, I liked how you answered my question, because a lot of guys will ask me the question, how do I get more work? There's no one thing. That's what everybody wants. Give me the one or two things that I should do. It's not one or two things. It's 1,000 little things. It's 8,000 posts and 15 social media profiles and 500 evenings, making those posts. And it's 1,000 little things. It's every micro interaction with a real estate agent or a potential buyer. Even your hiring process is 1,000 little things. You put out an ad, meet a guy at a concert, always be looking, always be recruiting. Any good business is built on 1,000 little things. And for you, you have 1,000,000 little things in your business, which has worked out really well for you. So if you were to go back in time to the beginning, because a lot of your big success, which in the past 5 or 6 years, and that's a short period of time to have that level of success. I know companies have been trying to do that in the past 10 or 20 years and haven't gotten to it yet. What would you change if you could go back in time 13 years ago or so when you started your business, and you'd smack your younger self and say, Ian, do this?
Would have marketed harder to begin with. Because at the beginning I was like, as long as I post a couple times a week, I'll probably be okay. I remember I set aside some money to live on and some money to market. I kind of wish I'd reversed those and spent more on marketing. Even things like, pens, they're stupid. I've got a pen, I've got my logo on it. I've never gotten an inspection from having a pen to give to an agent. But when you give a pen to an agent, they take you way more seriously. Because now they know that you have an actual marketing budget. You're not just some guy who got his certification last week. So I think I would have done more of that. And I think I would have definitely hired sooner. Like we talked about, when I got to the point of I realized I needed to hire, I realized my youngest son at the time had never been more than 2 hours from home. Since then, we've had numerous epic vacations where I'm gone a week, 2 weeks. And we've gone to Yellowstone where there's no cell phone reception for 2 weeks at a time. We went to Alaska where we had no cell phone reception for 2 weeks, and came home and nobody missed me. Like, I'm back, I'm ready. And everyone's like, "Oh, you're back? Okay." Yeah.
That's important. We want
So
to be unimportant to our business. That's the sign of a good business, is when we are not the critical piece in our company.
time was so if I could do anything go back, it would have built it better to have more time with my kids when they were younger.
Yeah.
Now they're teenagers and they're like, who cares, Dad? I'm like, you're home? Do you have to be home?
Teenage years are fun. I'm in the middle of that too. So 2 Ians with teenagers.
Yeah.
Listen, Ian, I really appreciate you taking the time to be on the show. You obviously run a larger inspection company, a lot of volume, and to share your wisdom on the show. And I do want to point out, you have a podcast that you're co-hosting, and you also have a book coming out. So before we end the episode, can you just give us the 30-second pitch on those?
The podcast I'm a co-host on is called Real Estate Red Flags. A buddy of mine, Josh, in San Diego, is an arborist and tree inspector, runs it, and he just asked me to be the co-host. I'm like, cool. I like doing these things. And then, my book is called Build a Real Estate Career That Fits You. It's primarily aimed at real estate agents, although other home inspectors would get a lot out of it. And it's not a do these 10 steps and you'll be successful. It is more about finding your inner voice, finding things that work for you. I just remember I've worked in sales organizations in the past where they have, this is the way we do things. And you either, get with the program or get out of here. And that doesn't work for everybody. And there's a million ways to build a real estate business. But there's a couple of key things that you do need to do to stay focused. To find your territory. Which drives me nuts when I see a home inspector. I'll go anywhere. Great.
Yeah.
I'm going to spend more time in traffic than you would inspecting. I don't go anywhere. I go in a very specific area, and that's it. And we do volume that way. So, I recommend that for agents. So it is on pre-order on Amazon right now, and it should be out in about a week. So when this airs, it should be out.
That's awesome.
Build a real estate career that fits you.
That's awesome. Well, we're always looking for a good book on this show, so I'm looking forward to that one coming out. But Ian, thank you so much for being on, sharing your story and your wisdom. And I personally got a couple of action points from this episode, so I appreciate it a ton.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you much. And everybody listen in on our next episode of Inspector Toolbelt Talk.